morning, everyone. Well, firstly, let me say I am so thrilled to be here with all of you today. I think it's very uncommon that we get together and get to really enjoy one another's company and learn from one another in such a cool way. So thanks for taking a little time to listen to me. I chose this topic specifically because I think that there are a lot of things that we can address as a group that needs to be addressed and actually communicated to for companies that are planning on bringing in this function for the first time. It's something that they want to do, they have the desire to do it well, and they want to do well by us, but they're not sure how to prepare for us in this role. They're not sure how to utilize us effectively. They're also not sure how to equip us with the right tools, knowledge, and know-how and community so that way we can really thrive within their organization. A little about myself. I believe that we are probably primed to really advocate for being human first within our organizations, and it allows our customers to be a little more free with us and allows them to connect with us in unique and memorable ways. So if you would like something unique about myself, I'm from Philadelphia. I'm a Navy veteran. I attended Savannah College of Art and Design, and I'm happily queer. So happy Pride, everyone. If you'd like to connect on LinkedIn, you can just check that QR code right there for convenience. So this topic may not be entirely relevant for everyone here today or everyone watching, specifically because we have different levels of maturity of customer advocacy already within our organization. But for a company looking to bring in our function, I think this would be extremely helpful. Firstly, if a company is going to be bringing in customer advocacy, the first thing that needs to happen before alignment is information, so that executives and business leaders aren't uninformed on what alignment they actually can agree upon. If let's say a CEO or a chief marketing officer wants to bring in a customer marketer for the first time, and they say, in this role, you're only going to be doing customer stories. That is a misalignment. It will not allow you to thrive. It will not allow you to grow your practice. And essentially, you're going to be in a position to where you're consistently looked at as someone who's not bringing in value for the organization. The alignment, once it does happen, you have to look at whether or not it is prioritized in the correct manner. We don't necessarily have a solid lexicon or nomenclature to talk about customer marketing and advocacy. So the way I'm looking at this is customer advocacy is everything that you do for your customer internally to ensure that their voice is heard, that you're innovating your product with customer voice. And customer marketing is everything that happens afterward to really amplify your customer, tell their story, and share their success and wins. In order for customer marketing to work effectively, customer advocacy has to be first and foremost. And if you don't have those programs in place, customer marketing is not going to thrive. The third item I have here is support. And that's primarily because a lot of organizations don't realize the level of commitment that they're bringing, the level of commitment needed for this function to really thrive. We are seen as project managers, event managers, content creators, editors, you name it, anything under the sun, we're expected to know how to do it all. And oh, by the way, you're a data analyst. You are a website designer, all things that you may not be very well versed in. So you need to find those internal connections so that way you can truly thrive when you get in your position. But before that happens, internal alignment needs to be there, so that way you're not found with no support. And lastly, are they truly committed to purposeful employment of someone who is coming into that role? And by purposeful, I mean you're not someone there simply to execute. You are not someone who will be the yes person, but rather you are the person who is willing to zag when everyone else wants to zig. If your customers is saying B, but you only want to do A because your executives and your leadership say that it's comfortable, it's the status quo, and it's what we've always done, you're going to be in a poor position for customer marketing later on. The first steps to successful onboarding for someone who's coming into this role, I think, begins even before you start looking for them. So what I would have appreciated, and I think what many people would appreciate coming into a customer marketing and advocacy function, especially if you're a newer generation customer marketer and this is your first introduction, your very first role, a company can start looking at things like the tools, the resources, the agencies that you have on hand, and putting together a quick stack of everything that they utilize, so that way day one, you would have it on your desk and you know what's at your disposal and how you can use that in a very meaningful way to execute on any strategies for customer marketing and advocacy. The last thing is current advocacy programming. And I say that because a lot of companies have customer advocacy programming already, but it's not formalized in any way. It may live underneath a different department, success or sales, and it typically looks like storytelling processes where someone heard from a customer that did exceedingly well, it wasn't tracked along the way, either the story was used or socialized through just an email communication or put into a customer evidence database in the form of a spreadsheet that lives somewhere, but there's no quality control on that. The second thing here that would be helpful is a preliminary CMA eval, and CMA is customer marketing and advocacy there, which is if you have all of your tools, your resources, and your external agencies lined up, how are you using them? What are the processes that are in place? And bringing it all together again in that folder for day one of anyone who's brought on board. Existing incentives is important as well, because as the new customer marketer of your organization is looking for a way to incentivize sort of initial engagement, having that available to them would give them some flexibility in, let's say, determining that you could provide free training or free billable hours. You just never know what a new company, if you're coming into a new company, you never know what they have available. Early empowerment, I say this because even if you make a reservation at a restaurant, you will lose typically, you'll lose about $25 for a reservation that's missed. And I think what happens a lot of the time when a customer marketing role is posted is that there is no intention to give initial budget of any kind. And that's a challenge because you never know what kind of conversations you're going to be having with customers. You don't know what events you're going to bump into them at, and you'll want a way to sort of facilitate that relationship. And sometimes it's in the form of a lunch, or it's in the form of sending them a gift of appreciation for their time. So having that initial discretionary budget is important. Support and partnerships, I didn't look at that, I didn't look at support and partnerships very deeply until I think 2 months into my current role. And I say that because I was busy looking at all of the other things, information access and doing an initial eval. But the support and partnerships, if you have maybe someone from your partner team, someone from your success team, someone from your sales team already aligned to meet you in almost a customer advocacy group day one that's already pre-selected by your organization as like the key leaders that are going to be your dedicated partner, that would be extremely beneficial as well. So how do you find the right person? How many of you have gotten a request for employment on LinkedIn recently? Show of hands. I know I've gotten maybe 4 or 5 job requisitions. None of them look the same. All of them say that they want someone to take care of customer advocacy and customer marketing, and it usually is the gamut. It is customer storytelling, success, sales, customer storytelling, references, reviews, with no prioritization. You know, when you hop on the phone, if you take the call, they don't know what they're looking for necessarily, which is why it's important for us to educate these companies that we can, as specialists, do something very extremely well, which is identify the people who are ideal for telling their story and for building their brand. But at the same time, we need the flexibility to do what we do best and outsource the rest. So we're not the only individuals taking care of the entire function. Socializing the role in the right channels. We've got some incredible vendors here today. Influitive, Trust Radius, and they have job boards, which I'm sure that if you are a company looking to hire, they would be more than willing to put the listing out there for you. Sell executive alignment and understanding. I saw this recently posted on LinkedIn where not only was the job description listed, but they said, hey, not only do we have this new position, but our executives are already in agreement on what we want this role to be. I think that was the biggest selling point for anyone to join that company, because you're not going to have to figure out what your role is, essentially. Be prepared for questions. And I say that because if you don't know what we need to hear, we more than likely are going to ask a lot of questions to ensure you as a company are the right fit for us. And then sell your focus on employee enablement. Right now, there's a huge focus on video activation. I have not seen a company yet educate their employees on how to use video internally, how to tell stories as an employee for your brand internally. So why would your customers do it? So really focus on employee enablement, because that's going to actually open up the doors for customer advocacy later on. And be transparent and realistic. Transparency in the form of, if you have nothing established currently, that's fine. Let us know. We are more than willing to help you, but when there is a vision sold and that vision isn't realized and you're new to the company, you're more than likely going to lose that person eventually. And lastly, reasonable expectation. I'm following a couple rules here, and the number one is be brief. So this is the last slide in my presentation, but the reasonable expectation is there's no silver bullets. Don't expect someone to come in and be a magic maker. If you want to see a magic show, come to Vegas. Get a ticket to David Copperfield. We can do the best that we can with what we have. I've listed a few of the things that would really help us accomplish a lot of things in the first couple of months if we had them available to us on day one. But if we were to recommend, or if I were to recommend 1 or 2 things that you can do initially to really focus and help your customer manager come in and succeed with customer-led growth storytelling or customer-led growth insights, start for third-party reviews. The reason being is because it's already a pre-programmed behavior from Uber ride shares to Amazon purchases, everything that you do. And usually there's a review that follows. So it's something that the public expects. It's already public customer sentiment as well, so you don't have to go through the legalese of can you use it, can you tell this story. And then there's multiple use cases for third-party reviews, which is you might get public customer sentiment, or you might get really clear, actionable, negative customer sentiment. And I love that type of candor because it gives us an area to really improve upon and build relationships. And when you actually do activate on that negative feedback, you can go back to the customer and continue that relationship and maybe nurture it a bit more. And for video quotes, this doesn't have to be super complicated. There are a lot of processes which are typically already established within your sales or CS teams where they're having recorded calls with customers anyway. What you need to do is, if you have any legal barriers there, ask your legal team to step away and to equip you with a one-line sentence that you can simply say after a customer shares something really insightful, such as, "Oh, I love what you had to say. Do you mind if we use this in X, Y, or Z?" If they say yes, great. Take that video, cut it, put it on social. You do what you need to do with it, but it doesn't have to be this full production. And there's a lot of missed opportunity in genuine, sincere, and in-the-moment reactions. It is typically lower lift, it's an immediate return, and video is a very high return. So thank you for your time. I hope that was somewhat beneficial. I know it was a different topic.
Thank you so much, Tim. Looks like we have some questions that are rolling in now. Also, regarding just backtracking to the thank you, one of the things that I think was really valuable about your talk was that the way that you framed it is, I think, very helpful for customer marketers that need to go in and have these conversations with their team, even if they're just walking into a place that hired for it. Those are the level setting conversations that we still need to have to set us up for success later when we need to connect the customer journey points, build relationships with these different teams. So that language will definitely carry on. So thank you for that. Somebody asked, what are some of the initial partners that you identified in your current role, and why did you start with them?
Great question. I think with having someone, well, my initial first partner, and I think anyone's really their best friend if you're a customer marketer, is a strong data analyst. I'm not someone to dig through multiple, I could, but I'm not one to dig through multiple platforms to get the right information, and much less correlate it, put it together and chop it. So really having someone who has those data analyst chops is very helpful. Secondly, a lead from the partnerships team, because a lot of storytelling or a lot of socialization of what your brand does involves integrations, or it involves partnerships. So you want to be able to tell that story eloquently and do due diligence to those who have invested in your brand who may not be customers but are solid partners. And the last one, I think that's a really strong one that's highly overlooked, and I don't know why, is the person who leads your ERG groups or corporate social responsibility team. And the reason I say that is because if we look at what sells, what stories really pull at the heartstrings, what stories really matter, at the end of the day, some of it has a bit of identity in it. So why aren't we involving our customers? Why aren't we allowing them to participate in cultural moments? Why aren't we getting to the root of, identity and sharing things that are important to them in the frame of business? And I think if we did that often and more, we would probably see socialization of our stories more than just being product specific.
I would like you to give another talk on that next time. Thank you. That was really good and definitely an interesting topic that we all need to expand on. Somebody said, love this, all caps. We definitely need more conversations regarding hiring and expectation setting. What advice would you give to someone who joined a company and the role was nothing like it was sold to them?
Do you love the brand? Do you like the people that you work with? I think a lot of the good intentions is there. There's a barrier of education, unfortunately, to no one's fault, that customer marketers who are currently in the field need to educate companies on what is needed in order to get the right recs and to hire the right people. But then also, once we're in there, they probably had good intentions on bringing you on board and maybe didn't know what you needed to know, which is why you're there, obviously. So just practice empathy and hang on and connect with us at events like Customer Marketing Summit.
Building off of that, what advice would you give to someone who is tasked with rewriting their job description once they join a company?
I think that's the biggest advantage you could probably be given. You are now in a position to design the position that you wanted in the first place. Nothing's off the table at that point. If you're being offered to rewrite the job description, go for it. Do it from an informed perspective. Build a case on why it should be this way, and maybe point to other customer marketers who have spoken on why it needs to be that way. Use advocacy as your tool for building the correct position for you.
Oh, thank you for that. I thought that one was going to go many different ways, and you really lifted us back up. Thank you. And then the last question is, have you used any Envision customers to communicate this message to your internal stakeholders who need to be educated? Oh, leveraging the advocates.
Well, I will say that I've had a really interesting moment that I don't mind sharing, and that is I initially started looking at what our listening posts were and really defining some cool customer insights, and one of the comments that came through is socialization of your product shouldn't necessarily only be on your customers to do. And so I took a call and I had that conversation. What I found out is that maybe marketing and communications could be improved in one area or another. So that person subscribed to being part of our customer advisory group specifically for content. So listen to those things that come in and then place them in the right positions to optimize your operations. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And I was trying to type in another one, but it didn't work too quick. Oh wait, actually, well, okay, let's start with this one. How do you push back on the need for case studies?
That's a really good question. Look at what's in pipeline and then what your objective is for sales. So if you're seeing a certain group coming in and that's the majority of your pipeline, why would you focus anywhere else immediately aside from maybe some supplementary areas that you're looking to explore from a persona perspective or an industry perspective? Stay true to what's working currently, but then also explore what needs to happen. And if you need to push back on certain case studies, simply point to that, or say it doesn't necessarily fit the corporate objectives. Part of storytelling, I think, in a barrier of education is that storytelling can be many different things to many different people. And there are different types of media that you can employ, different types of storytelling, such as a short quote or a testimonial that's not a 3-page written case study. And oh, by the way, they don't convert nearly as much as a short video would on social media. So I think you've got a lot on the back of your wings to communicate why case studies need to be very specific and intentional.
Yeah, I agree. And then the last question is, do you have any advice on pushing for changes to stakeholders who are not open to change, maybe protective of their time, and are more interested in keeping the old way of things going, the path of least resistance?
I would say you could do two things. One, you could butt heads and want to do it your way. That's just not going to work. But what you could do is do one activity your way and one activity their way, and maybe explore how the differences came to a different outcome or came to a different timeline of execution, and just show them that there are various ways of getting to the same conclusion. It's math at the end of the day, right? There might be different ways to solve for X, but showing them the work is what's going to get you to where you want to be.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. Thanks for taking the time and opening our eyes up to some of these, topics that we all struggle with, but we don't call out on a daily basis. So I really appreciate it. Everybody, round of applause.